does not contain personally identifiable information, or PII. But as you will see, it should be a piece of cake identifying anyone, even if you changed your advertising ID. As I mentioned, this location database is historical and long-term. The Fog Data Science databases apparently go back to 2017. So it is based on historical data, and this is something that the average person is totally not versed in. If I knew someone's location history in the kind of detail available in this kind of database, I would know so much about a person, particularly if I overlaid the locations over a Google Earth map. And that will be obvious when you actually use Fog Reveal. Fog User Manual. Now, fortunately, I have the actual user manual, and although it's low resolution, it gives us an idea of the capabilities. The Fog Reveal web portal is intended for law enforcement use, so the format is made to be filed by case at the law enforcement department system. The basic interface starts with Google Earth, so you pick out a location that you want to research, and then you find it on the map. Then you draw a boundary on the map, and it appears from the examples that you can draw a rectangular boundary or a circle. After that, you specify a time range and perform the query. Then after a few seconds, the app will display red dots showing phones found at that location. There's a list of data points showing the actual lat long and device ID plus the timestamp, and that's shown in another window. This can then be exported to a CSV file so you can work it in an Excel spreadsheet, for example. The area covered by the boundary of the query can apparently be very large. I've read that it can cover up to 20 kilometers, which is a little over 12 miles. That creates a lot of data points, obviously, and can include millions of people. Deeper analysis. Now here's where some deep analysis can be performed. You're allowed to search for multiple geofences simultaneously. For example, you can search for people that have appeared in multiple geofence locations over a period of time. This can then lead to analysis of associations and basically habits of the individuals and those they associate with. Again, know that this is a dragnet approach. There is no identified criminals in this search. This is a search of the general population. The other way it can be used is if some particular device IDs are identified. Then you can search for known locations frequented by such device IDs. And this, of course, leads to the full identification of the individuals, since you can cross-check their home addresses. There are plenty of other databases that show verified addresses. So with or without more advanced permanent identifiers like Google ID, Apple ID, MAC address, IMSI, or IMEI, it is a piece of cake to find anyone and then turn them into a specific suspect. It should be a small matter, for example, to identify all the people participating in the George Floyd BLM looting or burned buildings here in Santa Monica, California, for example, find their device identifiers, and then see where they went home that day. And voila, you could have arrested the looters and arsonists. But of course, you will find this technology used selectively with a political focus. It was used extensively for J6 rioters because that particular government wanted to make a point. While fog data science may not directly give access to fog revealed to private parties, they will do analysis for private parties. And here's a list of what they claim they can do. Number 1, verifiable presence at a location on a specific date and time. Number 2, likely locations for residences, places of business, and frequent activities. Number 3, links to other individuals, places, and devices. Number 4, patterns of activity correlating to certain events, times, or alibis. If this isn't private mass surveillance, I don't know what is. Again, realize that this is just one particular tool and one data source. How this location data is captured. There are several ways location data are captured. Google and Apple have a precise moment-by-moment history of locations which are collected 24/7, and this is permissionless. You cannot stop this if you have an iPhone or a Google Android. But the lower tech capability of Ventel, the probable supplier of location data here, is still powerful enough. Some parties have used this kind of data to prove political theories, for example, like tracking those people who repeatedly dropped off ballots at ballot boxes. There are plenty of uses of this, but not everyone is vulnerable to this, and I will explain that in a moment. In the meantime, this particular fog data science data is captured from mobile apps. How mobile apps sell your location. There are several apps implicated in the location selling infrastructure. Specifically mentioned as sources to fog data science are Starbucks and Waze. In the past, another app publicized as profiting from location sales was the Weather Channel app, which is owned by IBM. But if you think these are the only sources, the estimate of apps providing data are around 700 apps. So if you're fond of installing tons of apps, then the chances of you contributing to the location database is pretty high. Because the sources of locations are apps, the apps need to have location permissions. Unlike Google and Apple, these permission restrictions cannot be overridden. So some of you will allow locations while using the app, which is more restrictive. Some of you don't care, and the apps are constantly pinging location. This is why some will report hundreds of location pings a day, while some show only a few instances a day. The actual mechanism of collecting location data is through ads. Free apps that require you to provide location are often suspect, as the requirement to give location is often a clue that they are making money on the side. On my suspect list would be apps like Yelp, Craigslist, and potentially apps that already require location, normally like Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, and so on. The ad spaces on the apps are put in an online auction with your advertising ID and your location. And then advertisers who win a bid will be able to pop an ad on a targeted audience. Advertising IDs are attached to a profile and combined with location shows preferences. But the people collecting the data from the ad spaces are the ones that are selling the location. They are just capturing the auction data and storing it in their database. Depending on the data broker, other pieces of data can be associated with the location, including email, phone number, login ID, and so on. What I'm demonstrating here is that even with very few pieces of information, the location data itself is already very revealing. The specific location technology. The main location sensor on the phone is the GPS when you're outdoors, and when indoors it switches to something called a Near Location Provider or NLP, and this gives them a location based on Wi-Fi triangulation. This ensures that the location is within 6 feet, or even better for Apple devices. Those can give locations in inches as proven by Apple AirTags. Since the location used is app permission based, then it is possible to disable this by making sure you limit location permissions on most apps that don't need permissions. And then limit the use of locations to apps that you feel are safe for this. Generally, apps from banks, financial firms, and government are unlikely to be selling location data. And generally also apps that are not specifically in the location business like Uber and Lyft and so on, and do not pop ads typically will not be subject to location harvesting. But you can still always turn location off just in case. Who is vulnerable?
Tired of watching your
Who is vulnerable? Fortunately, many of my followers who already follow my advice and use the devices I recommend may be immune from location tracking via fog data science. For example, the Google phones like the